had in the
animals that
movie.
can live after death. Chickens can live without their heads as long as their brain cells aren't cut off, because most of their motor functions aren't controlled by their brain, but their brain stems. After a snake loses its head, it still has hours to live, so stay away from its head, because it can still inject venom after death.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG Reels, Facebook, anything weird, usual, and unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank all my supporters, man, who's coming back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos you titled, man, commenting down below. Most importantly, hitting that thumbs up button on each and every single video I drop. You guys are helping growing the community, man, helping growing the seekers. I greatly appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Stay with me, y'all. Seek the truth.
Here are some crazy things happening in the world right now. A teenager bit into a jawbreaker and actually broke her jaw. A healthcare worker was arrested on a felony charge after she allegedly posted a viral video online of her dancing provocatively over a disabled patient at their home. A school board fired a cafeteria worker for collecting donations to pay for student lunches. Anne-Marie Hochhalter, who was paralyzed in the Columbine shooting, has passed away at age 43 due to complications from her injuries. A man who had been banned from entering any Walmart was arrested on theft charges at Walmart. The couple who set the world record for the longest kiss just broke up. A Kyoto ramen shop put a bounty on the heads of two people after they left negative reviews. A baby that was born at Krispy Kreme was awarded a year's supply of free donuts. An online content creator was arrested after videos surfaced of her urinating on grocery store products for 4 years. 37 employers in a recent survey said they would rather hire AI than a recent college graduate. Gen Z is drinking 85% less alcohol than millennials. Netflix executives told screenwriters to make characters announce what they're doing so viewers who play shows in the background can follow along. A Brighton couple chose their terminally ill dog as their wedding witness thanks to Colorado marriage laws. AI can predict your sex from an eye scan with 90% accuracy now, and doctors have no idea how. 5 Florida juveniles were arrested on felony charges after stealing 2 vehicles in less than 13 hours and leading police on a chase.
Not the YNs, bro. They're getting younger and younger.
We're just pre-gaming for GTA 6.
This is the most dangerous apple on the most dangerous tree in the world. And if you ever see it, you need to run. Now trust me if you're in this video because this could actually save your life one day. This complete disgrace of nature is the manchineel tree. The sap, which will make you feel like you're getting a massage from Lucifer himself, covers the entire tree. The bark, the apples, the leaves, and with the slightest bit of contact with skin, the sap will cause burning and blisters. I know what you're thinking. Flamethrower. But because this is from Satan's backyard, if you try to burn it, it will give the Uno reverse card, as the smoke that would come from the tree would cause temporary blindness. As for the apples, don't eat them. This lady once tried to, and her ancestors' voices had never been so loud. It makes sense when you realize that the apples are nicknamed this. Yep, now it can be found in Florida. One more thing, if it's to rain, don't go under it for shelter, because the rain that falls off of that tree will also burn you. Send this to anyone you know, because this could save their life one day. Elon!
You were spitting, bro. Stay
These are
away from
video
those
games
apples.
that were banned. Part 1. Half-Life was a first-person shooter released in 1998. It's about a physicist defending the human race from alien beasts. It was called a masterpiece when it was released, except if you lived in Germany. You see, Germany has some of the strictest censorship laws in the world. So in order for the game to sell, they needed to cut down on the violence and bloodshed. So they turned the human enemies into robots, and if you were to shoot at an NPC, they would sit on the ground and shake their heads. While everywhere else in the world, you could physically harm them. Next, the game Shadow the Hedgehog is known by many to be the beginning of the downfall of the Sonic franchise. They took one of the most well-written characters and decided to make him edgy by giving him a gun and having him curse. Believe it or not, Sega wanted to go further with this edginess by originally giving the game a T for teen rating with more violence, more swearing, and we would have seen Shadow's friend Maria get unalived. However, this was changed at the last minute, and the rating then became E for 10+. And lastly, the Mortal Kombat games are known for being insanely violent, which means it's been edited, censored, and banned throughout its 30-year existence. The original game was censored on every platform it came out on, and of course Germany banned it entirely. And Mortal Kombat 11 was banned in Japan, as well as Ukraine and Indonesia, because of a pre-order skin that showed communist symbols.
Okay. But I think that Shadow game, it kind of almost like saved the freaking franchise, man. They gave Shadow that what he
Five
had in the
animals that
movie.
can live after death. Chickens can live without their heads as long as their brain cells aren't cut off, because most of their motor functions aren't controlled by their brain, but their brain stems. Salamanders have the ability to regenerate limbs and organs so they don't die. When they're old enough, they can regenerate again and again, even their brain, heart, and spinal cord. After a snake loses its head, it still has hours to live, so stay away from its head, because it can still inject venom after death. Flatworms can repair any part of their body after it's cut off. If their tail gets cut off, the head will repair the tail and vice versa. This will result in 2 flatworms. Cockroaches are resistant to radiation, and they're most likely to survive a nuclear explosion. They can live after decapitation for a very long time, but eventually they will die because of starvation.
Things that are more dangerous
That's
than
insane.
sharks. Sharks only kill a couple people per year. These things kill way more! 6,000 people per year die by tripping! 900 people per year are killed by their bed! About 10 people every year are killed by their necktie! More people die by Black Friday sales than by sharks. About 150 people per year die from coconuts falling out of trees. About 88 people per year are killed while mowing the lawn. Deer are pretty cute, huh? Well, they kill about 130 people per year. You're more likely to be killed by a vending machine than a shark. Even icicles falling kills more people than sharks. About 100 people per year are killed by pencils. Ants kill about 50 people per year. Are you afraid of ants? Lastly, more people die by taking selfies each year. Follow for more.
That's insane, man. That goes to show you, man, just how, I guess, cruel humans and how the environment can be, man. That freaking more people die by taking selfies than by actual shark attack. And the Black Friday fact, that doesn't surprise me in the least, man. You be hearing how they throw hands on that night. It's kind of hard to wrap my mind around it. Okay.
Let's talk about what happened to 29-year-old Lauren Heike. Lauren was living in Phoenix, Arizona, and she was working as an esthetician and skincare specialist. She was followed and chased and eventually viciously attacked from behind. Lauren suffered from 15 stab wounds to her back and her chest. Lauren tried her very best to fight off the attacker, which resulted in defensive wounds in her arms and her hands. Investigators do believe that Lauren was able to escape, but unfortunately her stab wounds were too severe for her. Her belongings were actually scattered along the trail while she was running for her life. Authorities had released footage of a suspect running from that same area. 22-year-old Zion Teasley was arrested at his home that he shared with his mom, which was less than a mile away from the scene. There was DNA that was found in Lauren's shoe that led to Zion's arrest. Once the DNA was put into the system, Zion's name came up in court records. Zion admitted to detectives that he frequented the area and he wanted to look like her. He stated that he grew up as a Christian and was struggling with his sexuality. In 2020, Zion had been arrested for robbery, kidnapping, and disorderly conduct, but he got a plea deal and was released in late 2022. Zion is listed as a flight risk and his bail is currently set at $1 million.
That's a tragic story, man. Truly tragic.
"16-year-old Allie Lowenser vanished off her school bus and she has never been seen. since. This footage is from her high school the day of. It is April 26th, 2010. Well, this footage would mark the last time she was ever actually seen. She ended up getting off her bus stop right on this very street that you see behind me, and this was seen on camera on that bus at 2:56 p.m. And she had already texted her mom that she was going to be walking from their home to her job, which is only about 10 or so minutes away. But at 2:57, just a minute after she got off the bus, she sent a text to her friend. Then her phone mysteriously turned off, and nobody has seen her since. Years into this case, there has only ever been one witness who came forward who said they might have seen a girl who fit her description talking to somebody in a white van.
Unethical and maybe even a little illegal life advice that
Crazy.
I don't care anymore. You know, TikTok's being big. There's clothing that you can wear that'll let you do virtually anything, okay? Think like mechanic uniform with a ladder, or like a polo and slacks and a clipboard. Anything, and delivery food. You know, like you can get it anywhere. My only rule for crime is leave your phone at home and don't fucking talk about it. Don't listen to me either. If you're at a crowded club and you want to get to the bar and actually maybe even sit down, find the hottest woman there, completely out of your league. Go up, talk to her, hit on her. She'll eventually leave and you have the seat. And if that doesn't work out, you'll have a conversation with a nice pretty lady. I'm of the belief that it's perfectly acceptable to have just multiple emails to extend free trial periods, and so you never have to pay for anything. Whether you're flying or riding the train, okay, buy 2 ticket seats right next to each other, one non-refundable, one refundable. You're going to refund that one day of. That way you can travel without anybody sitting next to you.
Blood-curdling facts.
She was spitting, bro. Especially, man, who does the free email for the free trials? I've been good. I did that a couple of times, man. I refuse to pay those prices, man. They got the free trials. I'm there, bro. I can't be the only one who does that.
You did not want to know. Up until 1974, it was illegal to appear in the streets of Chicago if you were ugly. The best way to torture someone and make it as painful as possible is to steam them alive. It takes longer to destroy their nerves, the sensation is hotter than boiling water, and your organs are cooked from the inside out. Kagura syndrome is a mental delusion where you believe that the people around you have been replaced by imposters. The movie The Hills Have Eyes is based on a Scottish group from the 16th century called the Bean Clan. And over the course of 25 years, they killed and ate over 1,000 people. Brains taste like ice cream. If you live in a major city, there is currently a nuclear weapon pointed at you as you're watching this video.
Really weird human body
Scared to
parts
think
that
about.
I can guarantee you didn't know. You can get a tan by eating a lot of sweet potatoes due to their high carotene content. Next time you have a stuffy nose, you could just have sex and it's gonna unblock it for you. You can prevent so much acne by just washing your face with hot water and then rinsing it with cold.
Welcome to Creep Time on TikTok with Silent
that
Steve.
what it
This is a case that does not sit right with me. Today we are covering the unsolved death of Matrice Richardson. On September 16th, 2009, 24-year-old Matrice is arrested in Malibu in a very manic state. Her family is contacted and they beg officers to keep her in custody while she's in a state of distress so she's not a danger to herself, which they do not. Around 12:30 in the morning, she is completely released from custody. She is released without any of her belongings and she is completely alone. The last verified sighting would be around 6:30 a.m. that same morning when she's spotted up a hike spanning several miles into Montanito and she's seen in someone's backyard. The police are contacted for the trespassing, but she's gone before anybody even gets there, making this the last moment that she was seen alive. Follow for part 2?
I mean, they gave the cops, man, try to tell them, man. Obviously, if you see she was in a state like that, why would they just release her? It's back out there, so look what happened. Man, sometimes, man, people just have more compassion. The world could be a way, way better place. That doesn't even make sense, man. That's on them.
This woman used Roblox to instruct a 10-year-old girl on how to murder a 2-year-old infant. This is 36-year-old Tara Sykes, and this story is incredibly disturbing. Tara Sykes' 10-year-old daughter was living with a different family, and she wasn't happy with it. So she got onto the game Roblox and started communicating with her 10-year-old daughter. And eventually these chats turned completely disturbing. Tara communicated with her 10-year-old daughter over Roblox and told her exactly how to kill this 2-month-old baby. At first she told her daughter to drown the baby in a bathtub. Then she told her daughter maybe she could burn the baby to death with scalding hot water. And then eventually she settled on telling her 10-year-old daughter to drop the baby on its head. And sadly, that's exactly what her daughter would go on to do. Tara's daughter picked up the 2-month-old child of the people she was living with, walked over to the kitchen floor, and dropped the baby on its head, attempting to end its life. The 10-year-old girl would later tell authorities that she was horrified of her mother, and she was terrified about what her mother would do to her if she didn't carry out her disturbing instructions. Further investigation also showed that Tara had instructed her 10-year-old daughter to kill the 2 adults that she was living with at the time. She told her daughter to go cut the 2 adults' throats with a kitchen knife while they slept, and then instructed her to douse the bed sheets with aerosol spray and light the house on fire. Now, shockingly, the 10-year-old actually did douse the sheets with spray, but she told authorities she wasn't able to finish the disturbing act. Now, Tara has been charged with a number of different things, but her trial has not been officially started yet, so I don't know exactly what's going to happen in this case, but I do see Tara receiving an extremely long sentence, hopefully life in prison, because this entire thing is just so completely disturbing and messed up. And I really hope that she's never able to see the light of day again.
Elizabeth Holmes is going to prison for 11 years for fraud. The pregnant 38-year-old who was once billed as the next Steve Jobs was sentenced to 11 years and 3 months behind bars and 3 years of supervised release for swindling $900 million out of investors. 137 friends and family members pleaded with the judge on behalf of Elizabeth by writing letters hoping for clemency. Now, she was facing up to 20 years behind bars, so this is significantly less. Holmes had founded the medical tech startup Theranos, which promised to basically revolutionize the entire blood testing industry by only using a single drop. She raised almost $1 billion from investors, and Theranos was once valued at $9 billion. Elizabeth had also scored huge deals with major retailers to feature her blood testing device in their stores. The problem is, the technology to do this didn't exist. Her device absolutely never, ever worked, and she pretended that it did. As a result, her company went under and she was convicted on several counts of fraud.
How did she has to be like the world's, I guess, best freaking capper, bro. To convince people to give you $1 billion and your product doesn't even work or doesn't even exist. You have to be like one of the best cappers, best lies ever. And she only got 11 years. I remember I watched the Hulu, like I said, think serious about that. $1 billion off a line? See through that.
Top 3 creepy last words people said right before dying. A nurse said that one night she was floated to oncology at the hospital she used to work at. She was given a patient who was passing away and had been unconscious for several days. At one point during the night, the nurse went into the room and the patient was on top of the bed. She looked at the nurse and said, "Don't let them take me." The nurse was freaked out and she asked her who was going to take her. And the patient said, "That black thing up there," and pointed up in the air. The patient died within minutes. A guy was rushed into a level 1 trauma facility from a motorcycle versus truck collision. The guy's able to talk at the beginning. He was drunk and cussing out the doctors and nurses trying to help him. They end up intubating him to preserve the airway, and he's going downhill fast. He codes, but they manage to bring him back. Suddenly, the guy comes completely to, rips out his tube, grabs one of the med student's hands, and lets out a breathy-like scream. "Don't let me die. I'm going to hell. Please don't let me die," he said. This freaks out everyone. The guy said he woke up in hell on fire, and keeps begging someone to check his feet for burns. Nobody could believe that he pulled out his tube and was talking. Despite everything they did, the guy still died. The doctors and nurses were freaked out about it for weeks. Emma said that when she worked in a nursing home, they had a resident that was unpleasant, to say the least. One day, Emma was on bell duty. It was her responsibility to answer all the bells for 2 hours, and the man rang his bell and told her that there was a black dog under his bed. Emma looked under the bed, but there was nothing there. She thought that he could have possibly seen a dog because it was a hot day and the front door to the home was open. She told him that the dog must have gone out the door before she arrived. He rang the bell again a short time later, insisting that he could see a dog under the bed. Again, Emma couldn't see anything. This carried on. He became quite hysterical on one occasion, shouting that the black dog under his bed was trying to bite him and that it had red eyes. He looked terrified, and Emma couldn't calm him down for ages until the dog disappeared. She handed over what happened to the nurse in charge and went home as it was the end of her shift. The next day, she was on afternoon shift, and she found out that the man had died not long after she had gone home. It really freaked her out. Emma said that he was a very unpleasant man, and she often wondered if the dog was there to take him away to you-know-where.
YouTubers that mysteriously disappeared. Kate Yup, a YouTuber known for posting mukbang videos without saying a word or revealing her face, has over 1.37 million subscribers on YouTube. She uploaded her most recent video in October 2019 and has been AWOL ever since. No one has heard anything from her on any social media. It's as if she just vanished. So what happened to Kate? That question has been on the mind of every Kate Yup fan since her last upload. Digging deeper, people found many clues pointing to something sinister that could be behind her mysterious disappearance. You can hear a voice in the background saying, "Hurry up," as Kate swallows unimaginable amounts of seafood. In other videos, people suspect that Kate has posted encrypted messages reading SOS or help. In another video, she even lost 2 of her teeth while chewing enormous amounts of seafood. I don't know if anyone would go to those links for a mukbang video. So did she just leave YouTube? Or is her disappearance linked to something more? I hope we find out soon. More importantly, I hope she's okay. It's a little suspicious when someone talks about mysterious topics on YouTube and then mysteriously disappears themselves. Is that what happened to Spy Kitten TV? Dasha, who hosted Spy Kitten TV, covered popular conspiracies. She was quite active until July 2018, when, much to the dismay of her fans, she went radio silent. She never returned to the channel. It left many wondering where she had gone. Some theorized that she might have been discovered exposing the secrets of some underground societies and was silenced for being a concern to them. However, the truth isn't that dramatic. She has simply abandoned her channel for a new one called The Witching Hour, where she does tarot readings. The internet can be scary, and it's sad when it chases a creator off the platform, especially when it's a case like this. Paranormal Anna covered several types of mysterious stories on her channel, from true crime to paranormal activity. She also amassed a reasonably loyal following of over 40k subscribers who were stunned when she suddenly deleted all her social media accounts one day. Many YouTube channels in the horror community discussed her vanishing off the platform, but her departure from YouTube seems legitimate, not a mysterious disappearance. Before deleting her social media, she tweeted out that she had been receiving a lot of life-threatening messages and that she may have attracted the attention of a stalker. She mentioned that her internet hobby wasn't worth the scary messages or creepy stalkers she'd been facing, and for those reasons, she has decided to quit social media altogether.
People would be weirdos, so
Who were caught cheating, part 2.
Talk about it.
In 1994, on the day before the U.S. Figure Skating Championships, title holder Nancy Kerrigan was filmed finishing a practice skate, but just seconds later she was screaming in pain on the ground after a man with a police baton attacked her. The attack severely bruised her knee, which made her unable to compete. Her longtime rival Tonya Harding went on to take first place and was selected alongside her for that year's Winter Olympic skating team. However, police soon discovered that the attack on Kerrigan had been ordered by a bounty hunter.
Whoa.
In a shocking twist of events, Tonya Harding's ex-husband Jeff Gillooly and her once bodyguard Sean Eckhart were labeled as the culprits. They'd hired the bounty hunter to break Kerrigan's leg, removing Harding's competition in the upcoming events. Although she claimed she had no part in the conspiracy, Harding later admitted that she knew her ex-husband had been involved, but she'd failed to report it. But karma had the last laugh. At the games, a malfunction with her skates saw Tonya placed down in 8th, while Kerrigan managed a silver in 2nd.
That goes to show you, bro. That's proof of karma right there, man. She knew what was gonna happen, man. To take out the competition, she ain't saying nothing about it, and she still got 8th place. She didn't even get top 1 or 2, man, for the gold or silver medal. That's karma, seekers, right there, in 4K.
Here are some things that 99% of humans can't do. Are you part of the 1%? The ability to raise eyebrows is an evolutionary trait that all of us can do. While pretty much everybody can raise their eyebrows, only 1% of the world can raise one eyebrow at once. Did you know that 99% of the world can't lick their elbow? So you probably can't do this, and I bet you're probably doing it right now. However, for some people, this task is actually really easy, which is due to being born with really flexible bodies or practicing a lot of gymnastics. Only 2% of people can wiggle their ears. Unlike other face muscles, ear muscles are operated by a completely different part of your brain. If you try to use your face muscles to move your ears, it's never gonna work. So you're gonna have to raise your eyebrows and smile widely to lift your ears. And if you're lucky, you might be one of the few people that can move them.
I can't. Seekers, can you guys do any of those things? I think I can do the elbow joint. I think actually I can. But I can't do the ear joint. That's completely different. Or that one eyebrow, what the Rock be doing. I cannot do that. Tell me down below if you can do that, man. I'm actually curious if any of you guys can do that.
These people have died. Part 5. In 2000, Burger King managers Lisa Goetz and Lori Thomas staged a fake robbery of the restaurant where Lori took the money and Lisa acted as the victim, bound with duct tape and trapped in the walk-in cooler. Unfortunately, police didn't arrive until the next morning where they found Lisa, who died of hypothermia. According to investigators, Lisa could have easily freed herself from her bindings and escaped the unlocked refrigerator as she had no signs of forced restraint and the duct tape was loose. In 1998, during a heated marital dispute, a 25-year-old man picked up his 20-year-old wife and threw her off their 8th floor apartment balcony. Somehow the woman became entangled in the power lines below, and in what may have been an effort to save her or maybe finish her off, the man leapt from the balcony aiming for the wires. He missed the power lines completely and plunged to his death, and the woman managed to swing over to a nearby balcony and was saved.
That was an insane case, especially the last one. She tried to aim for the power lines and completely missed, but she made it?
This man was frozen in ice for 3 days, and you won't believe what happened to him. His name is David Blaine, and he went inside a block of ice for 3 days with no food and only one tube supplying him with air and water. At the 61-hour mark, he was beginning to lose consciousness, but he couldn't go to sleep because if he leaned on the ice, he would have gotten severe frostbite. Unfortunately, this led him to have extreme hallucinations. Near the end of the stunt, he called his girlfriend over, but she was immediately pulled away. This made him think that he was dead and that she couldn't see him. After 63 hours, they decided to cut him out, but they said he was so delusional he tried to grab the chainsaw. He finally made it out, but he was so physically and emotionally tired that he couldn't walk or talk. David was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, and after 1 month of therapy, he finally made a full recovery.
If you're watching horror movies and feel like something's watching you, this could be why. A family from Ecuador enjoyed watching horror movies together in their living room. But one night, during their late horror night session, they began to feel a strange presence with them in the living room. Scared, thinking they might have attracted an evil entity into their home, they placed a camera in their living room, and this is what they captured.
Ahí yo fue que ya comencé a sentirme mal. ¿Por qué? Porque mira, a ver, eso yo se lo vi claramente, así, de reojo. Mira, ¿sí viste? Sí, eso sí.
One of the family members is startled as a dark figure can be seen moving behind him. After this, objects began to fly across the room.
La puerta ahí como la tenía trancada. No mira, sí, ¿qué pasa?
They just get out of there. The family will later call in a priest to bless the house, but the hauntings persist.
This is the stuff of nightmares that's like straight out of the
Is that legit, Seekers?
It has a lot to do with the dark web. Sometime around 2004, when people were just starting to explore what would later be known as the dark web, they would talk about a woman that would show up on your screen, except it wasn't a woman. It was a distorted mask of a woman's face. And what this person would do is that they would recite your full name and your address, and then say, "I'm coming for you." And then the whole screen would go dark.
This is what they mean when they say only 5% of the ocean has been explored. What kind of fish is this?
Did that fish just eat a rock? I mean, like I said, it's true. We only explore like 5% of the ocean, so there could be some species down there that we haven't even seen before. Have you seen that fish before, man? I sure haven't. The more you know. That's scary.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 16. Kangaroos are absolutely terrifying, and if you mess with one, it will likely lure you into the water and attempt to drown you. There's an abandoned Disney park that you aren't allowed to go to, and it was shut down in 1999 because it was infested with free-roaming alligators. The animals were being abused, and an 11-year-old boy died from a flesh-eating bacteria found in the park's waters. In the movie The Wizard of Oz, the lion's costume was made out of a real skinned lion. This is the John Lawson house. No one knows who lives there, but every single day, there are several female mannequins sitting on the front porch wearing a variety of clothing. Their positions and outfits change daily, and many believe this is meant to convey some sort of message. And in 1871, a train crash took place just 200 feet away from the home, killing 22 people. And these mannequins are always pointing toward the crash.
Why? Is that a hyena or something?
Yeah, the hyena's a girl. So many may know, female hyenas have a fake meat hose that looks almost identical to the real thing. And for those that don't, nah, actually, that's the lead. They have a pseudo-phallus that they give birth from, and yes, it's as traumatizing as you think, and yes, the very process of birth can end up doing the exact opposite for everyone involved. But low-key, having a built-in flesh strap might explain why hyenas are exactly the way they are. So for most animals, life pretty much comes down to the 3 F's: food, fights, and... So a lot of times when male animals run a fade, it's for the goal of female validation. But hyenas having a female 5th leg means they have a natural crotch block. It's basically anti-mating hardware that means the no-pants dance can only happen if she allows it. So unlike things like lions or bears, there's really no reason for male hyenas to want smoke with each other when getting it in is already RNG. Pun intended. And it's believed having coitus completely out of their control is why male hyenas are way less aggressive and even have less testosterone than the females. Meanwhile, the females are more on go than a green light. And why hyena sisters are way more likely to put each other on a t-shirt. And with them being pack animals with a whole social ladder, the Walking Comedy Club had to become more aggressive just to give their cubs a chance at life. Matter of fact, that's probably why they have more testosterone. So yeah, moral of this video. Lion King did hyenas every type of dirty, but they got it right when they had Shenzi giving orders. And now you know why.
This is why you should be scared of that one person you're
Just put that
talking to
together.
online that you're about to meet in real life. Blanca Arellano, a 51-year-old Mexican woman, was looking for love. She met a Peruvian man named Juan Villafuerte on an online gaming app. And on the last day of October, she traveled 3,000 miles to Lima, Peru to meet him. She thought that he could be the one. On November 7th, while in the beach city of Huacho, where Villafuerte lived, Blanca spoke to her niece on the phone and told her that the relationship was going well and that she was in love. Then, she went silent. Her niece suspected something was wrong after not being able to get into contact with her. She called for help on Twitter and reached out to Juan Villafuerte, who said that Blanca got bored of him and left to find a plane ticket back to Mexico, as he could not provide the life she wanted. But the truth was much, much darker. On November 10th, Peruvian authorities found a severed finger on the beach of Huacho. Then in the following days, they found a faceless head and then an arm. and then a torso with no organs inside of it. They eventually identified Blanca Arellano via her family by the ring on her finger. Juan Villafuerte was arrested on charges of human organs trafficking. Authorities found traces of blood all over his apartment, and he reportedly posted TikTok videos of human organs days after Blanca's disappearance. Creepy last words people said right before dying. A nursing assistant said that she was in a long-term patient's room changing the sheets. The patient would periodically look behind her. She asked the patient what was wrong, and the patient looked in her eyes and asked, "He doesn't scare you?" The nurse was confused, and she asked her who she was referring to, and the patient said, "The big man in the top hat. He's standing right behind you." She said that she doesn't think that she has ever finished changing a bed sheet and repositioning a patient as fast as she did that night. She refused to go into that room by herself for the rest of her shift. Linda Johnson, a former nurse, said that she had a gentleman in his late 90s who was dying. He started screaming blood-curdling screams, so they raced to his room. He was screaming that the room was on fire and that there was a man with large horns peering out of the flames. He kept pointing to one wall, saying that it was on fire. The nurses turned on the lights and tried to calm and console him, but to no avail. Instead of being consoled, Linda said that he told her that she was on fire and that he could see her being consumed by flames. Linda said that it was the creepiest thing that has ever happened to her. The doctor was notified, but nothing relieved the patient's terrifying hallucinations. He died soon after. Cynthia said that several years ago, her 20-year-old daughter had brain surgery. She got an infection of the spinal fluid. She was there in grave condition for a month. Cynthia never left her daughter's side. One night, the worst night at this point, she asked who the man in black was that was standing by the bathroom, and why Cynthia's deceased brother, the girl's uncle, was standing next to her at the side of the bed. Cynthia immediately got the chills. She told her daughter, "They're not here." Then she told her brother and the man in the black, whom she couldn't see, "You both have to go now. She's not ready to go, and I'm not ready to let her go." After that night, her daughter started to get better and better each day. Today, her daughter is doing well.
September 25th, 1981, something very strange took place up in the Smoky Mountains. This is a picture of Pauline Melton, and it would end up being one of the last known photos of her. Because while Pauline was up there, she was with two hiking companions. They described that she, all of a sudden, without explanation, just started to rapidly speed up. They even described that they called out to her. They were asking, "Pauline, where are you going? Pauline." She never answered. She never looked back until she crossed over a hill. Since that exact moment, Pauline was never seen again. And to this day, they still have no idea where she went and why she did it.
Isn't that crazy, Seekers, man? You could go in the woods and just drop off the face of the earth. Man, that's how I'm going, man. You gotta go with a big group, bro. I don't want nothing to happen.
Donald Trump was shot this afternoon at a political rally in Pennsylvania. As you can see right here, this was moments after the shots were fired. Now, we don't have all the information right now, but obviously he is still alive. And the footage is absolutely disturbing. In the clip, you can hear multiple gunshots ring out. The audience starts screaming. Trump drops to the ground. He is covered quickly by the Secret Service agents. In the broadcast footage, he grasps his ear, so he may have been grazed by a bullet up there. Like I said, we don't have all the information. This is a developing story, but this isn't the first time that someone has tried to assassinate a president or former president. In 1912, an assassin attempted to end the life of Teddy Roosevelt as he was on the campaign trail. This man was former salon keeper John Schrank, and he would later claim that William McKinley's ghost had visited him in a dream and told him to avenge him for his assassination. Teddy Roosevelt, after being shot, continued with his speech, even as he profusely bled through the front of his shirt. And while he didn't end up getting elected that year, doctors at the time said that it was safer for him to keep the bullet inside his body than attempt to remove it. So, for the rest of his life, he carried on with a bullet lodged in his chest. Then in 1981, someone attempted to assassinate Ronald Reagan. This photo was actually taken just moments before the shots were fired. 3 people were injured in this attack, but nobody died. And obviously, as you guys probably already know, Ronald Reagan survived. He was in critical condition when he was rushed to the hospital, but nobody ended up passing away from this assassination attempt. The guy who did it was named John Hinckley Jr., and weirdly enough, he had been obsessed with actress Jodie Foster after watching the film Taxi Driver, and he claimed that he had carried out the assassination attempt in an attempt to impress her. And interestingly enough, he just signed a record deal last year and will be releasing a folk album soon.
The first person to live forever is already alive. At least according to Neil deGrasse Tyson, who explains it with irrefutable logic. It starts with someone that was born in like the past year or so. Our test subject, call him Johnny Boy. The reason Johnny, or any of us, age is because our cells are constantly dividing, making fresh copies of our DNA in each new cell. Our DNA is packed into chromosomes, and since DNA duplication isn't perfect, the tips of these chromosomes are slightly trimmed on every replication. Sort of like making a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. The quality slightly degrades each time. To protect against this, our chromosomes have something called telomeres on their tips, which essentially contain junk DNA data that we can afford to lose. But even these telomeres are finite. They get shorter and shorter on every duplication until at some point they're fully gone. Then the cell stops dividing, gradually loses its function and withers away. The more this happens in our cells, the more we age, and our bodies experience age-related characteristics. Scientists like David Sinclair are currently getting really close to reversing this process in human cells. He's developed what he refers to a chemical cocktail that can reprogram the way our cells are read to sort of fill in the blanks from these imperfections in our DNA replication. The science behind it is quite extensive, and he ran tests on lab mice that were incredibly successful. Having mice born at the same time, with one looking visibly older than the other, says that human trials are planned to start within the decade, and it's just a matter of time before we start seeing success in that. So where does this live forever come from? Obviously, the first version of this cocktail won't be perfect and may extend human life to, let's say, 150 years. Now remember our test subject, Johnny Boy? In 20 years, he'll be 20, at which time we're almost guaranteed to be undergoing human trials at the very least, if not already publicly available. This life potion is given to Johnny so that he can live until 150. The claim states that by the time Johnny is 40, we're almost guaranteed to make enough advancement to double the anti-aging cocktail so that now he can live till 300. 20 years later, when he's 60, the potion will be approved so that he can live till 500 years old. By the time he's 80, he can live till 1,000. These numbers are all arbitrary, but the general principle still holds up. Even if we start seeing diminishing returns in the improvements of this concoction, Johnny has already hacked his way into living forever. He can already live till 1,000 at this point, so even if it takes 100 more years to improving the medicine to living till, say, 2,000 years old, he'll live until then and take it, constantly outliving the improvement curve of anti-aging until they've cracked the code to the million-year potion, at which point Johnny Boy is essentially immortal, which means one of two things absolutely must happen in our future. One, we colonize other planets, or two, we stop having babies. If people are living forever and no longer dying, our population will continue to grow and just grow and grow. At which point we either need more space to put people, like other planets, or we gotta stop making people. So unless we want to sterilize the entire human race, living forever probably isn't a good idea until we figure this multi-planetary business out.
Things that show...
What do you guys think about that, theory seekers? The age guy, but it just kept going and going and going, man. They're working on stuff, man, to make us not age no more. We live forever, trying to make us immortal. What do you guys think about that?
Show off the power of time. Part 7. Disney World has had about 58 million visitors per year since it opened in 1971. And during those visits, guests would often have to wait in lines that were organized by rope walkways. And if you look closely at the rope clips, you can see that they've started to wear down. Some have even created a new groove. And no, I'm not talking about Cusco. Next, watching waves at the shoreline might seem like a calming activity, but not if you're a resident of Green Bay, Wisconsin. Over time, the waves wore the shoreline and even took a huge chunk out of it. Now, this would usually take several years for the effects to be seen. But in the case of Green Bay, this all happened within the span of an hour.
Wow, what the hell? The power of water.
And lastly, we're told that tattoos are permanent, but this may not be the case. Because this guy got a tattoo of a flower on the palm of his hand. And in just 2.5 months, the tattoo mostly vanished. This is mainly because our palms experience a lot of friction from how often we rub our hands. So if you want a tattoo, you might want to avoid your palm.
Bro, I gotta ask, the most wholesome animal on earth. Brother, if you wanted a manatee video, you could have just asked. Did you know when alligators and manatees cross paths underwater, the alligators seem to let them pass a prehistoric sledgehammer, and they give manatees the right of way. That's how you know you got motion in the ocean. There's never been a record of a manatee attacking a human, and it might be because it's literally physically impossible. One is because their teeth are way in their mouths, and their molars designed for grinding grass, not biting You know, if you ever get bit by a manatee, that means you were in his throat, and if you were, that means this law was for you. Some things don't need exploring Columbus. Also, some scientists think that because adult manatees have no predators, and because they don't have to fight each other over who eats what grass, there's a lot of talk that the sea squishy is mentally incapable of feeling aggression. Now, I don't know if that's true, but I will say 3 things. 1, they don't just eat grass, they'll go pescatarian if the opportunity presents itself. 2, as fast as you think manatees are, they're faster. It might not be with malicious intent, but 1,200 pounds of anything moving like that is definitely cause to pause. And 3, last year a popular manatee named Hugh, past tense, after essentially explicit interaction with a bigger male named Buffett, tore him open like a reverse butt birth. The catch: Buffett was his brother. Yeah, that's pretty bad, but did you know manatees are also closely related to my favorite animal? They even got the same nail tech. So yeah, I'm a little biased, so I'm gonna let it slide. Especially since I'm pretty sure it wasn't aggression, but just a dangerous lack of awareness. But yeah, God bless this water blimp, and R.I.P. Hugh.
R.I.P. Hugh, bro. I didn't know manatees were related to like elephants. I saw that. We learn new things every day, Seekers, man.
Don't freak out, but we are right now entering the beginning of the end of the universe. 95% of all the stars that will ever form have already formed. And it gets even crazier than that. There is a sphere around us called the Hubble sphere. Beyond this point, everything is moving away from us faster than the speed of light due to the expansion of space itself. And how many of the galaxies do you think are outside of this sphere? 94% of all the galaxies we can see are beyond this boundary today. Meaning, no matter how hard we try, if there are aliens living in these galaxies, we will never be able to meet them. 60,000 stars pass beyond this horizon every single second. That's nearly 2 million solar systems we can no longer visit since the start of this video. This will continue until we are all alone. The universe as we know it, with all the beautiful galaxies and nebulae, will slowly fade away into darkness, and the astronomers of the future will point their telescopes everywhere, finding the same thing: darkness and silence for the rest of eternity.
Here are horrible things done by very influential people. Everyone knows Steve Jobs for founding Apple, but what most people don't know is the dark side of his personal life. He had an on and off relationship with a woman named Kristen Brennan, and this led to a messy pregnancy and a years-long paternity battle. Steve Jobs refused to help Brennan and their child financially, and she had to go on welfare. Now eventually he did help his daughter, but only because Brennan came forward about his behavior in an interview with Time magazine in 1982. Before becoming a popular kids book author, Theodore Seuss Geisel, aka Dr. Seuss, served in the animation department of the United States Army during World War II. He wrote training and propaganda films, and designed posters to get people signed up to join the army. But a lot of his work at the time made the Japanese look really horrible, and this carried on into his earlier books. And Mother Teresa helped provide healthcare to the sick and the poor, but her actions behind the scenes were questionable, to say the least. It's been reported that her care involved these people allegedly going through a forced conversion to Catholicism, which involved children being baptized without their parents' consent. She also allegedly hid the actions of priests who were behaving inappropriately around children, and used charity funds for her own medical care. Yeah, this is not what Jesus would do.
This teacher was caught doing it with an 8th grade student. And apparently it was almost daily. The kid was 13 years old, and now she will serve 10 years in prison. This happened in Texas. The teacher behind me, her name is Alexandria Vera. She's 25 years old, and this 13-year-old got her pregnant. She stated the relationship happened in the Instagram DMs, and his family apparently approved of this relationship. The judge and the school district said that they want their teachers to teach students, not put their hands all over their students. She was originally going to get 30 years in prison, but the judge said, I don't think she's that bad, and gave her 10 years. Apparently this relationship blossomed in 2015 around summertime. The boy kept advancing, she kept denying, but eventually she gave in apparently. Prosecutors said, based on evidence, they did it daily for 9 months straight. And apparently during the entire ordeal, to get away with this, she told her neighbors that the boy was her brother. And now it gets even weirder. She even moved his father in with her so she could pretend she was dating the father when in reality she was the kid. This was kind of a mask. She was also paying for the family's groceries and phone bill. This kid literally had a sugar mama. Now Alexandria Vera has a 6-year-old daughter that even called the 13-year-old kid her dad. What an interesting case. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're from Houston, Texas, did you hear about this case around you guys? As always, these videos are for informational purposes only. Once again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I definitely feel like she should have served life for this. She knew exactly what she was doing, but the court system was pretty lenient on her.
I may get caught right away. Basically, if I get caught, I'm just going to shoot myself. So, I could basically be dead in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I don't know. The chance at this point.
The video you you just saw was made by murderer Peter Keller, who in 2012 murdered his wife and daughter before taking his own life. Now, in the lead up to murdering his family, Peter actually made a series of disturbing vlogs. He took a handy cam out with him into the woods and showed him preparing for something. He actually was creating an underground bunker stocked with all sorts of supplies like candy and beans. And during these videos, he talks to the camera very candidly, and it's some really disturbing stuff. The videos offer a glimpse into the mind of a killer who's on edge. He didn't know at the time whether or not he could actually follow through with murdering his wife and daughter, but unfortunately, he did. On April 22nd, 2012, after constructing the bunker in the woods unbeknownst to his family, Peter shot both his wife Lynette and his daughter Kayleen in the face with a silenced weapon before he set his house on fire. He then fled to the underground bunker and was able to evade capture by the police for a whopping 6 days. But once authorities figured out where Peter was, they surrounded the bunker with a SWAT team, and that's when he fired the fatal shot into his own head, taking his own life. In his video recordings, Peter talks about how it'll be exciting to live out in the bunker, and he discusses his fantasy of robbing banks and pharmacies and living on the run. But his run didn't last that long, and he left behind so many questions and a trail of blood and sadness. If you want to hear more stories like this, listen to the podcast Murder in America that I co-host.
Intruder who entered her home in the middle of the night wearing a clown mask. On the 15th of October, a scene unfolded in a small town like that from a horror film. At around 1:30 a.m., a man broke into a child's bedroom in Colorado. Police described the incident as an attempted child abduction, with the man entering the room in a dark hoodie and a cloth clown mask. Terrifyingly, the little girl was blindfolded and snatched off her bed as the man tried to take her from her bedroom. She was subject to quite a brutal attack by the intruder and bravely fought him off until he hit her over the head and knocked her out. Fortunately, it seems that he was spooked in the process of this and fled the scene. Now, it apparently took police over an hour to get to the incident at the property, but they did manage to gather vital evidence and then track the intruder down. They revealed his identity as 56-year-old Thomas Gallegos. They were able to arrest him and charge him with multiple serious offences such as burglary, assault, kidnapping and child abuse. The little girl did sustain cuts and bruises and was obviously traumatised by the attack, but fortunately did live to tell the tale.
This is how rare your body actually is. Starting off, only 5% of people have tied tongues, so if you have this, you're pretty rare. Basically, this is where your tongue is tied to the bottom of your mouth, impacting your speech and eating. Next up is Morton's toe, and if you have this, you're probably pretty rare. Only 10% of the population has this, and this is where your index toe is bigger than your big toe. Okay, this next one is crazy. 1% of people actually have unbreakable bones. This is a genetic mutation which causes people's bones to be more dense than the average human. And one person who had this condition actually walked away from a car crash unharmed. Next, about 50% of people can fit their hand in their mouth. Sounds a bit high, so if you actually can, let me know. If you can tickle yourself, you're in the rare 7% of the population that can do this. About 10% of people suffer from eczema, which is a skin rash and is so annoying. And finally, we have the 16% of people that can make a roaring noise in their head by clenching their jaw.
If any of your seekers, man, can you guys do any of those unique things, man? I think I have the tied tongue, but I can't fit my whole fist in my mouth. I know I can't do that. I don't even need to try to do that, bro. And the unbreakable bones. I saw actually somebody comment down, a fellow seeker said how like the unbreakable bone story was kind of not true. So, like I said, to each their own. Everybody got to do their own research, but that's crazy.
Crazy part is, most people believe that these three things will actually save your life. They don't. Let's pretend you're lost in the desert and you need water, and you don't have any. So where are some places you can get water? One commonly held terrible piece of advice is to drink your own pee, because it's mostly made up of water, except there's 5% of that that's all made up of just waste from your body, and even though the urine might keep you alive a little bit longer, you'll ultimately die of kidney failure. So you don't drink your own pee. Instead, you head over to some cactus you see nearby because you remember reading or hearing in school that you can drink the water inside of cactus. Except, unless it's one really specific kind of cactus, you'll be drinking lots of alkaloids and chemicals that will make you viciously ill, and you'll start vomiting and you'll have diarrhea and you'll die from dehydration much faster. So as you're sitting there wondering what you're going to do next, a venomous snake bites you. And so you instinctively start sucking on the bite to remove the poison, but you can't because it goes right in your bloodstream, and all you'll do is die much faster from infection.
Man, those 3 things, he just proved us wrong.
This picture from inside the basement of Funzone, and I'm gonna get into some of the backstory about what it is that we're actually looking at here. But what I can tell you is that when I did see it, my heart sunk. For some backstory, if you don't know what Funzone is, this is kind of a relic of the late 90s, early 2000s. It had lots of iterations over the years, but it was effectively like an indoor amusement park or arcade. It used to be like a really fun place to be. It had a handful of carnival rides, indoor roller coasters, all the works. So Funzone eventually did close down, and they boarded up the doors. I guess the problem was is that didn't stop people from breaking in. One of the curious things about this location was that they didn't sell off any of the equipment that was inside. It just kind of remained in place. Eventually, upon one of the break-ins where somebody went in, they made their way to the basement where they found an abandoned cell phone, and that is where we get this picture. Nobody really knows who took the photo or what really happened to them, but if you look a bit closer to the background, you will see the same thing that I do. You can see it if I make the photo brighter. Whoever was exploring Funzone, they came face to face with a person in that basement. Don't forget, if scary stories like this are of interest to you, make sure to go check them out right on the podcast.
We're always told to drink a lot of water throughout the day, but have you ever wondered what happens when you drink too much water? Well, 35-year-old Ashley Summers drank 64 ounces of water in a span of 20 minutes and passed away from water toxicity. Ashley, her husband, and 2 daughters were at Lake Freeman in Indiana when she began feeling dehydrated. So she drank 4 bottles of water because for some reason she wasn't able to quench her thirst. Ashley complained about having a horrible headache and she began to feel lightheaded. When she got home with her family, she passed out in the garage and she was taken to the hospital where the doctor said she had brain swelling. Ashley never woke up and she was pronounced dead from water toxicity. A toxicologist said that this is more likely to happen to someone who's extremely dehydrated, which will cause them to drink too much water and not enough sodium or electrolytes. So remember, bring more than just water on really hot days, especially if you're under the sun for a long period of time.
Here's why you might not want to visit your mom on her birthday. A man was stuck in traffic while driving home after visiting his mother for her birthday. The man was so frustrated that when the GPS told him to take a detour, he went right away, which might have been a mistake. His gas light then came on, so he decided to pull into this super bar in town to fill up his tank. So the man went in, pumped his gas, and when he went to pay, the clerk was super weird. He didn't acknowledge him and just gave him a creepy smile. The man then went outside and saw a woman just standing in the middle of the road and said, "Are you okay?" And the woman looked at him and said, "Ah, yes, we are happy here." The man was like, "What the?" and just drove out of there. Till a cop pulled him over and said, "Sir, you can't drive. Driving's illegal here." The man had had enough and literally just went pedal to the metal and zoomed out of there. When he got home, he was just so confused. The people looked real but didn't act human. He tried to research it but decided, next year I'm just sending my mom a card.
Yeah, the Fast and Furious out of there, bro. I did the same thing too. People are acting weird, very weird.
Weird Nature Facts, Part 37. In proportion to body weight, koalas have one of the smallest brains of any mammal. They're so dumb that when presented with leaves on a flat surface instead of on branches, they are unable to recognize them as food and will not eat them. Dogs get sprayed by skunks so often because skunks raise their tails as a warning. Dogs see this as "come smell my butt," which is the exact opposite message of what the skunk is trying to send. In Germany, it is illegal to kill any vertebrate animal without proper reason. Because of this, all German animal shelters are no-kill. In the 1980s, Ken the orangutan escaped from his enclosure at the San Diego Zoo multiple times. His apparent goals were visiting other animals, taking photos with tourists, and throwing rocks at his orangutan rival.
Wow,
Here are some disturbing facts about Disney. Many scenes in Toy Story are inspired by the horror movie The Shining. The voice actor that did Lilo in Lilo and Stitch also played the ghost girl in The Ring. The Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland feature real human skeletons. Also at Disneyland, there are vents that pump out artificial smells to keep you happy. After the release of Princess and the Frog, over 50 kids went to hospital for salmonella. They tried to kiss a frog. Do you know any other creepy things about Disney? Leave a comment.
Here's some.
I think the thing that got to me the most is that he pumping out like a smoke out of a vent to keep you happy at Disney. What the heck? What they got going on with Disney, bro? And the more you know, I heard some creepy facts about Disney, but that's definitely a new one I heard today, Seekers.
The creepiest videos on the internet, part 10. The popular American rapper XXXtentacion was murdered on June 18th, 2018, and his death broke the hearts of many. Many people visited his memorial to leave gifts, but some people captured much more. The YouTube channel, The Fam, recorded a video trying to communicate with this beloved rapper, but accidentally captured this. But someone else got a lot more than this. The YouTube channel Selva the Explorer got to speak with him through her spirit box. Here's some things he had to say.
What is your favorite song you've ever recorded? What's the name of your favorite song? Are you in the Wi-Fi? Is there anything else you want to tell us?
Is this legit? They were speaking to his ghost?
Yeah, I don't know if this is the most disturbing, but this is definitely top 5. This is Malgas Island, and up to 60,000 of these birds called Cape Gannets will nest here. But don't worry, I'm gonna get to it. So normally these parents take turns, with one going out for food with the other staying behind to guard the chick. But because of overfishing, oftentimes both parents will go out for food, leaving the chick all alone on the island. Which wouldn't be a problem if they didn't know that. Because groups of these white pelicans will fly over to the islands and then walk around looking for any unsupervised Gannet chicks, so that they can grab the baby birds and eat them alive while they're still struggling. And sometimes they'll just push the parents out the way and then swallow the newborn children right in front of them. It somehow gets worse. Those same pelicans will fly back to their nest and vomit the half-digested, recently murdered baby birds for the pelican chicks to eat. And because Cape Gannets have no real way to defend themselves, pelicans have no reason to stop. And since pelicans obviously don't have teeth, those chicks' last moments were spent suffocating while being digested alive by stomach acid, only to get regurgitated and eaten twice. Dinosaurs never went extinct. They just rebranded with feathers.
Black Air Force energy. Confirmed. They some menaces, bro.
This is proof that we aren't alone. Okay, so in Wyoming, there's a strange mountain in the middle of nowhere with ridges on it, and no one seems to know why. Now, most people say that this is because of erosion. However, there's a theory behind this mountain that will absolutely shock you.
Talk about it.
And as the theory says, the real reason as to why this mountain has ridges is not because of erosion, but because of a giant bear. The said bear is said to be named Mato and is about 60 feet tall, weighing over 10 tons. And this story even goes as far back as the Stone Age, with drawings of a gigantic bear attacking tribes on wall caves. However, this creature has not been seen since.
So this video went viral sometime last year when this woman and her kids, along with her friend and her friend's kids, went out to eat after a doctor's appointment. While they sat at this restaurant, this random man came out of nowhere and tried to grab one of their daughters and pull her out of the restaurant. The two mothers had a total of 6 kids with them, and they were all seated on this table, but in front of them were 2 other young kids who happened to be Snapchatting while this whole thing went down, and they caught this crazy moment. When the mother realized that this man had grabbed her daughter, she stood up right away and said, "Oh hell no." And then he said, "I'm just playing," and he let go of the little girl. There is no way this man is just playing around. He intended to take that little girl, and he probably thought it was going to be easy because there's just 2 moms with 6 kids at this table.
Humanoid robots.
Yeah, nah, he was definitely on some weird crap, bro. Gonna say, try to play it off as a joke, man. These people are getting bold now, bro. Like, right in front of the parents, they just don't care no more. Did the right thing stand? Nah, we had to run that feed, bro. No. Somebody had to drag me off that guy, man. And for, like, in front of the parents? How stupid could you be?
Are getting creepier by the day. A startup from Poland called Clone Robotics is on a mission to create some of the most human-like robots ever, even going as far as to use a musculoskeletal body using hydraulic tendon muscles covered in this stretchy skin-like fabric. And it's not just for show, because they claim that it is the strongest biomimetic hand in the world. Oh, and just like in the movies, their artificial muscles bleed if punctured. So yeah,
Things are getting serious now.
Terminator next step.
Part 4. Today, let's talk about the mysterious disappearance of Rebecca Corium. Rebecca Corium was a 24-year-old worker on the Disney Wonder cruise ship. On March 22, 2011, while working on the cruise ship, Rebecca disappeared without a trace. This is one of the last photos taken of her, and it was from CCTV footage. At 5:45 a.m. that morning, footage revealed Rebecca talking on the phone with someone. She seemed visibly distressed. Now here's where it gets twisted. Many people believe that Disney knows exactly what happened to Rebecca, but are trying to cover up this whole thing. Let me explain. For starters, the captain of the ship said that Rebecca was just washed over by a big wave. They then gave Rebecca's parents a sandal and said that this was hers and it was retrieved from the deck that she was last seen on. Number 1, the sandal wasn't her size. Number 2, it wasn't her style. It was also revealed that Disney had edited the CCTV footage. Check out part 2 on this case for more information.
They're just trying to save some money, man. That's not the first time a big company would do something like that. It's sad.
Did you know that they may have just exposed Satan's city? What's even more crazy is there's people living there right now and it's not hell. Whilst addressing a church in Revelation chapter 2 verse 13, Jesus exposes the city of Satan. Watch this. Jesus says, I know where you live, a place where Satan sits enthroned. And he says that same place is where his faithful witness Antipas died. Saint Antipas was martyred by being burnt in a bronze bull in Geneva, Switzerland. Like, this literally happened under the rule and reign of Nero. And you're never gonna guess what's happening in Geneva, Switzerland right now. It's home to an organization called CERN, whose, logo just happens to be 666. And their goal in life is to develop a machine that can actually tear a hole between the natural and supernatural realm. And they just made a discovery of something called the God particle, but that's a video for another time. Subscribe now if you love Jesus.
What do we think about CERN, man? That's their headquarters.
This is the disturbing truth about Christmas. This is Black Peter, and he spends the whole year spying on kids, taking note on who has been good and who has been bad. Every single Christmas, Black Peter goes with Santa from house to house, and while Santa gives presents to the good kids, Black Peter punishes the bad ones, and this is what he does to them. First, he will leave you a bag of twigs and a pile of coal. But if you have been really bad, Black Peter will snatch you from your bed and throw you into a sack. He will then kidnap you and take you to his coal mine, where he will chain you up and make you his slave. You will then work for him for the rest of your life, and if Black Peter ever gets sick of you, he will just simply eat you. So if this doesn't motivate you to make the nice list, then I don't know what will.
Stay away from Black Peter, bro.
Of the silent man. In 2014, a 51-year-old man in the UK named David Hampson decided to stand in the middle of a busy road and block the traffic. The incident was then reported and police officers arrived at the scene to see what was going on. But when they tried to talk to David to get him to move, he wouldn't say a word and just stood there, so they arrested him. From his arrest to when he was brought to court, David still remained completely silent and wouldn't even talk to his lawyer. Although since no one knew his motives and he hadn't actually hurt anyone, David was let go soon afterwards. But all he did was just go back to that same street and stand there, silent, once again. And he committed this same crime over and over again for the next 7 years, never saying a word to anyone. Even though he was jailed multiple times, every time he was released, he would just go back to that same street and do the exact same thing. All the doctors who had tried to help David failed because he refused to speak to them. And it was reported that the only time anyone had ever heard him speak was when he was giving food and water, and he said thanks. Finally, in 2020, David was given 3.5 years in prison for his actions, and is still yet to speak to anyone on why he did it. Fourth one.
If you believe in God, stay away from Halloween. Muslims, Christians, or anyone who believes in God, Halloween is a pagan festival. It involves evil spirits, jinns, and shaitan. It is forbidden for Muslims and real Christians to know the truth. Please do not associate with it and stay away. Share this everywhere and spread awareness.
Alright guys, let's talk about Krampus. Krampus comes from old German folklore. He's the opposite of Santa Claus and he punishes misbehaving children on Christmas. You might be asking, what does he do to punish these misbehaving children? He stuffs them in his bag and takes them back to his lair. He either eats them or tortures them. He also has a whole gang of minions that help him do this. Krampus is celebrated around many parts of Europe and there have been a lot of petitions to ban him. This is because people are scared of the legend and they don't want to keep doing it. But every single year during Christmas time, there are always reports of Krampus sightings all over the place. Let me know what you guys think about Krampus in the comment section below.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 3. The first firefighter killed in 9/11 attacks was struck dead by a falling body in the courtyard. One of them was killed on his way in, and the other was killed on his way out. Right now, there are tiny little bugs on your face munching on your dead skin. Your bones are wet. If you don't have kids, you will break an unbroken line of children that has gone on for tens of millions of years. A scientist studying death asked a man who was about to be executed by a guillotine if he would blink after his head was chopped off. He ended up blinking for 30 seconds. Most laugh tracks for TV shows were recorded in the early 1950s, meaning that you hear dead people laugh. If you're attacked by a bear, it won't try to kill you like other predators. Instead, it'll just start eating you. One day, someone will mention you for the last time, then they'll never ever mention you again.
Crazy to think about, man.
Here are the creepiest Christmas urban legends, part 1. Ever heard of the Yule Cat? This is an extremely creepy cat that's said to originate from Iceland. According to stories, the Yule Cat enjoys snacking on people during the holiday season. And what makes the Yule Cat even weirder is that it specifically targets people who haven't received any new clothing before Christmas Eve. Iceland is also home to Gryla. According to Iceland lore, Gryla is a giant ogress who leaves her cave in the mountains to feed on children during Christmas. To make the story even creepier, Gryla keeps the Yule Cat as a pet. What the hell is going on in Iceland? Then we have Belschnickel, and this one comes from Germany. According to people of the Rhine, Belschnickel is an old bearded man who visits children during the holidays with Santa Claus. If you were good that year, he'd give you cakes and candy. If you were bad, well, Belschnickel would pull out a switch and whip the children until they behaved. This is probably why Dwight from The Office loved him so much. There's also Krampus. This is one you've probably heard about from movies and books. In the Alpines, Krampus is a horned demonic figure who visits the homes of naughty children on December 5th and punishes them. In some versions of the story, he hits them with birch rods. In others, he straight up takes them back down to hell with him. The Germans definitely know how to scar kids for life.
Scary things hidden in Disney movies. In Mona, Olaf from Frozen appears in Mona's basket. Wally, Rex from Toy Story All Alone among the junk.
Whoa,
Here's
I never
the
noticed
truth
that.
behind Dora the Explorer. You may think it's just some ordinary cartoon, but there's actually a big secret behind it. Dora the Explorer is actually blind, and here's proof. If you watch the show, you'll notice Dora never actually looks at what she's talking about. She always looks in another direction and doesn't even blink. This also explains why her parents make her take Boots everywhere, because Boots is actually a Secret Service animal. Even in this scene right here, Boots is counting the coins and she's not looking anywhere near that. And this explains why she always asks obvious questions to the audience.
Here's what famous cartoon characters would look like in real life, and the last one will freak you out. This is what Homer Simpson would look like as a real person. And this is a 3D rendering of Mario. Buzz Lightyear doesn't actually look too different in real life. And Bart Simpson seems to have a missing chin when he turns real. Stewie Griffin from Family Guy doesn't look too different. But SpongeBob SquarePants might freak you out.
Yeah, he did. SpongeBob can't be real. That face.
Maps that will change the way you see the world. These cities are all still owed money from the Trump campaign. There are now over 50 countries generating over 50% of their electricity from renewable energy. This shows the employment rates for 15 to 29-year-olds in Europe. The darkest blue areas are over 80% and the darkest red areas are under 30%. This is how much it costs to hold a prisoner in each state in the United States. In Arkansas, it only costs $23,000, but in Maine, it costs over $300,000. 33% of the entire country of Switzerland lives within 5 kilometers of the main train line that goes through the country. This map shows how population is dispersed through France with the same amount of people living in the green as in the red. This map shows how many people by percentage in each country in Europe actually speak French. This map is highlighting every city that was founded by the French in the United States.
Wow, the more you know. That first map is crazy, bro.
These are scary cartoon truths that would terrify you, part 8.
Okay, so the Teletubbies is a dark nightmare about genetically engineered slave creatures.
being systematically trained to become part of our society. The Teletubbies aren't in control of their own destiny, and 3 things control their day-to-day life. First is the voice, which is a tiny female voice that tells them when they could eat, sleep, say hello, or even say goodbye. The robotic voice comes from a speaker in the ground, hinting that something larger lies beneath. Next up is Nunu. He's a harmless vacuum cleaning robot who follows the Teletubbies and cleans up all the messes that they make, and also yelling at them for bad decisions. Nunu is just the watchdog of the Teletubbies. Finally is the pinwheel. Whenever the pinwheel starts to spin, the Teletubbies stop everything they're doing and run to the top of the hill to perform a ritual. People believe the Teletubbies is based on the end of the world.
Wow, we've heard some crazy theory about the Teletubbies, but that's definitely new one.
Saudi Arabia has just said that the groundwork for what would become the largest structure on Earth is now 86% complete. Now, not only would it be large enough to fit 20 Empire State Buildings inside, but similar to the Las Vegas Sphere, in its center will be this spiral-shaped tower encased by a VR dome that essentially could create anything your mind could imagine, whether that be on Mars, under the ocean, balcony views of Pandora, and even whatever the hell these things are. So the question is, do you think they'll be able to complete this by 2030 or not?
This evil grandmother baked
so.
her 20-month-old granddaughter in the oven. Viewer's discretion is strongly advised. 48-year-old Carolyn Jones lived with her brother and 20-month-old granddaughter Royalty in Shaw, Mississippi. She was described as a caring woman who loved her granddaughter. On October 15th of 2018, Carolyn's brother had found Royalty in a still warm oven when he had returned home from work. She had been burned so badly that she was unrecognizable. The police determined that Royalty had been stabbed multiple times and was still alive when she was placed in the oven. Royalty's cause of death was stab wounds and inhaling all that heated air. Carolyn was taken into custody on a charge of first-degree murder. The motive behind why she did this is still unclear to this day. A week before the incident, Royalty's toys and belongings had been left on the curb for trash. Royalty's car seat, high chair, ride-on horse, and diapers were among the items taken by people that were passing down their street. Neighbors were shocked to hear about what happened, and they stated that they rarely saw Carolyn or anyone else at that house, and they had no idea that a small child was even living there. In 2022, Carolyn was sentenced to life in prison for capital murder.
An 11-year-old boy came across this girl buried underneath the sand, and this is what happened. A young boy named Connor Fitzgerald was building sandcastles with a couple of his friends at the Marina Dunes beach in California. The boys soon moved to digging holes in the sand and challenged each other to see who could dig the deepest. As Connor was digging his hole, he suddenly hit something with his right hand. He dug deeper and realized that it was a bag. He dug around the bag, grabbed it, pulled it out, and was shocked when he realized that the bag was still attached to its owner. Connor then dug back more sand to find a little girl buried underneath. He called out for help, but there were no adults around, so he single-handedly pulled her out of the sand. The little girl was completely limp and wasn't breathing. Connor then thought back to an episode of NCIS where he saw a character perform CPR. As he started the procedure, a young couple walking down the beach started sprinting toward them.
Damn, we gotta find that part too, bro.
Bring facts that will ruin your life. Baby chicks, while very sweet, are often grinded up. In many large factories, if they're baby roosters, they're just tossed into a grinder. Pretty gross. Did you know that in the United States alone, every year, around 2,500 people die from using right-handed equipment that were originally left-handed? Sucks to be left-handed. George Bush Sr. was the only man to survive after his plane was shot down in World War II by Japanese soldiers. Out of the 9 men that were cannibalized and eaten on by Japanese soldiers, Bush was somehow the only one to survive. Hopefully you like boogers because Inuit mothers actually suck the snot out of their baby's nose. Nasty. Did you know there's actually 200 corpses right now on Mount Everest? Due to the body's elevation, they're actually left up there and perfectly preserved to the extreme climate and temperatures. They're used as guide points for climbers and hikers. Comment and let me know which fact disturbed you the most.
Basically, it's a graveyard, man. That's
This
the
is
best way to
without a
put
doubt
it.
the creepiest mugshot I've ever seen. This is 33-year-old Solomon Galligan. He is an S offender that tried to kidnap a little boy from an elementary school in Colorado. This entire ordeal happened last Friday, and he went up to multiple children. Before police arrived, he tried to grab the young boy and flee, but that was unsuccessful, so he just fled to begin with. He was later caught by police and charged with 1 count of kidnapping, As a result, the elementary school and the surrounding areas are increasing security and police presence. But bro, this mugshot is definitely the creepiest shit I've ever seen. There's not a single feeling of remorse or regret in those eyes. He's now being held on a $25,000 bond. He had a similar incident in 2012 and he failed to register as an offender. Now, luckily, the little boy that he tried to kidnap was unharmed. And this also happened while the kids were at recess. I'm not sure how this happened. I feel like when I was growing up in recess, all of the teachers would be watching us.
Yeah.
They definitely need to step up security. Let me know what you guys think about this case in the comment section below. And as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
Movie bloopers that are better than the actual movie. In The Dark Knight, while Joker sits in a jail cell, he overhears Detective Gordon get promoted to commissioner. Naturally, the rest of his squad applauds him, but then they hear the Joker clapping in the background. The Joker's creepy clap wasn't in the script, but it fit the scene so well they kept it in. In the show Friends, Matthew Perry actually hits his head on a filing cabinet.
Please, just...
Well, this was a total accident, and Jennifer Aniston's reaction was completely genuine. In this scene in Spider-Man Homecoming, Tony Stark leans over to open the door, but Peter Parker hugs him instead. This wasn't in the script, but Tom Holland thought it would be funny, which led to Robert Downey Jr. improvising this line on the spot.
That's not a hug, I'm just grabbing the door for you. We're not.
Classic.
In How the Grinch Stole Christmas, in this scene, everything was supposed to fall off when Jim Carrey pulled the tablecloth. But it didn't go as planned, so he had to improvise. This wasn't in the script, but it was so funny they kept it in.
Records that will never be broken again. Number 1, the woman with the most children. Back in the 1800s, a Russian woman named Vasiliev gave birth to 69 total children. She had 16 pairs of twins, 7 triplets, and 4 quadruplets. And no one has come close to matching that number since. Number 2, the most nuclear explosions ever survived. This is Tsutomu Namaguchi. He has survived 2 different nuclear explosions. Tsutomu was on a business trip when the first nuclear bomb was dropped on Hiroshima in 1945. After miraculously surviving that explosion, he returned to his hometown of Nagasaki just in time to witness the second atomic bombing. But again, he miraculously survived and lived till the age of 93.
That's rough.
Facts that will probably keep you up at night. One of your photos that you have today will be used in your funeral. There are more slaves today than any other time in history. According to the founder of the Walk Free Foundation, there are 46 million slaves in the world today. Your eyes can still move after your death for 15 to 30 seconds. Watching TV for more than 2 hours a day can shorten your life expectancy by 1.4 years. In 1977, we received a radio signal from space that lasted 42 seconds. To this day, no one knows where that signal came from. A lit candle causes more than 15,000 house fires every year. Spider rain could happen at any moment above you. Bill Skarsgård, who played Pennywise in the 2017 version of It, was born in 1990, the year the original It was released. Yeah.
Those are some creepy coincidences, man. Spider rain? I've never heard of something like that before, but I definitely don't want to experience that, man. Imagine you just walking outside, normal day, just see a whole bunch of freaking spiders coming down. You like, what in the world is this world coming to, man? How does something like that even happen?
If you see him while you're awake, run. So this story actually comes from a Reddit user who's a therapist. And this user had a patient who was coming in complaining of seeing Hatman at night. This patient would apparently wake up in the middle of the night to see Hatman standing at the foot of their bed, watching them sleep. And as a result, they were not really sleeping much. So the therapist prescribed some pretty heavy sleeping medication, and as a result, the patient starts getting a little better. But then one day, the patient comes in and just looks like they had seen a ghost. So the therapist asked them what was wrong, and they said that as they were getting in the car to come to therapy, they saw Hatman standing across the street during the day. This therapist had only ever heard of Hatman when it came to patients waking up in the middle of the night and seeing him, never when they were already awake doing things in the middle of the day. So the patient is terrified, but the therapist thinks this might be a side effect of the medication. It takes a little while to get used to. But that was the last time the patient ever came to see the therapist.
That man, is he real? Cap.
Scary facts that will blow your mind, Part 2. The Hoia Baciu Forest is considered the most haunted forest in all of Romania. Hundreds of people have gone missing within these woods, among other things like screams, laughter, babies crying, people being attacked by unseen paranormal forces, strange balls of light, UFOs, and in the very center of the forest lies a clearing where no plant life will grow. It is believed that this spot is a portal to another dimension. What do you think? Like and follow for more.
Okay, that one, the most haunted freaking forest of Romania, man, where all those plants not growing and how they said it can be ported there. I definitely want to check up on that one because that sounds interesting, man. Like, no plants are going in that whole open area. That space is just like a freaking, look like a crop circle. What do you guys think? Is that a dimension to another
incident has
reality?
made people on the internet so upset because this woman went up to a teen and pulled down her skirt because she thought it was too short. Even if you think this skirt is too short, I think we can all agree that you cannot go up to a child and touch them. The teen said that this woman approached her from behind and basically put her hand in her area. This woman, who is a 49-year-old Ida Lorenzo, said to the girl and her friends, "I happen to work for the state, and if I have to see your cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS."
I happen to work for the state, and if I have to watch your cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS. You don't need to touch her off.
Now, let's be real for a second. If this was a man who did this to a young girl, police would be called immediately and there would be no excuses. They were waiting at a restaurant to be seated and she basically felt like it was inappropriate for this young girl to be dressed like this in front of everyone. Which, if you feel that way, then you can leave. You should never be putting your hands on anyone. She was eventually charged with sexual battery, which I'm glad because you can't be putting your hands on anyone, especially kids.
She said it perfectly. No words needed on that clip. Everything to a T.
Here are 5 regular things that are illegal in North Korea. Number 1, wearing jeans. In North Korea, wearing jeans is a symbol of their enemy America. Number 2, turning off the radio. All houses come with a government-installed radio that makes announcements through the day. Number 3, practicing religion. Reading a Bible can get you publicly executed. Number 4, watching foreign films. Watching foreign films can get you executed or sent to a labor camp. And number 5, listening to foreign music. All music has to be Kim Jong-un approved.
You were taught that you probably
Never
still
going to
believe.
North Korea.
Number 1, that cracking your knuckles will cause arthritis. While cracking your knuckles might sound and look damaging, it does not cause arthritis. That loud pop that you hear when you crack your knuckles is caused by bubbles bursting in your synovial fluid, and the bubbles pop when you pull the bones apart. Blood in your veins is blue. If you look down at your arm, you can probably see your veins and see they look blue. However, your blood is not actually blue in your veins. Blood is either red or dark red, but never blue. Your veins look blue because of your skin. Blue light does not penetrate human tissue as deeply as red light does, and as a result, veins that are close to the surface of the skin will be more likely to reflect blue light back to your eyes. You can hear the sound of the ocean in shells. This is a myth. The sound you hear when you put a shell against your ear has nothing to do with it being from the ocean. It's actually part of the background noise around you, just turned up a little bit by the shell. So if you're next to the ocean, the shell picks up the sound of the ocean, the alpha wolf. There's actually no such thing as an alpha wolf. This idea was brought about in a paper from the 1970s, but the author later said in a paper that he rejected the idea of an alpha wolf. While it's true that multiple wolves who share a small space in captivity will develop alpha and beta-like hierarchies, wild wolves behave nothing like this. In the wild, a wolf pack is typically formed by monogamous parents and their puppies, and the wolf pack is basically a tightly knit family consisting of parents or breeders and their offspring, not an alpha and beta.
We need to talk about...
Hey man, those facts, those will blow my freaking reality wide open, man. I've always when you used to put a shell up to your ear, they always used to say that like you were here in the ocean. That's another piece about your hood. Gone. And I remember seeing freaking blue veins. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid. Sometimes I would see blue. I'm like, is our blood blue? I said, how come when we bleed, it's never blue? So I learned that very early on, man. But we learning out here today. I like that.
Sex tourism. So if you don't understand what this is the practice of elderly men and women from America or other countries traveling to more undeveloped countries where the ages of consent are much lower, and then purchasing children to do things with. These are just some of the men who have been caught on camera doing these things. And this opens up a disturbing thought. I mean, you think you know somebody, but what are they doing in these foreign countries? Because laws were passed in the 2000s that outlawed this practice, meaning that if you committed an act with a child in a foreign country, the United States government can still prosecute you. But there was a great documentary made by Chris Hansen where they followed a wealthy American doctor over, I think it was in the Philippines, one of those countries, and caught him in the act of purchasing a child. And then they followed him back to the United States where he had a full family, he ran a successful practice, and he was then turned over to the authorities. But all you have to do is look at this and the low ages of consent in so many different countries. And just recently, a North Dakota lawmaker was caught doing this in the Czech Republic. So how many children have to be hurt before more action is taken against this whole thing? Every single year, the statistics show that over 1 million children are abused as a part of this system. 1 million children. Imagine a group of 1 million children, all of their lives completely changed forever, every single year, every year. And these sick bastards get away with it time and time again. Now, I don't know what I can necessarily do to stop this from happening, but I can inform people and try to get these videos out, because this is incredibly disturbing stuff. And I'm going to talk more about this guy in my next TikTok.
Curtain number 1.
Trying to find a loophole. Disgusting.
Wait. You don't remember what she looks like.
How rare is your body? Let's find out. About 75% of people have a deviated septum, and this is a condition in which the bone and cartilage that divide the nose in half are crooked, making one nasal passage smaller than the other, and it's known to cause nosebleeds, problems breathing, or loud breathing when you're sleeping. Less than 1% of people have an extra finger crease, and it's also called camptodactyly, and it's just when you have an extra little ridge on your fingers, and it is most common on your pinky.
Ooh.
Less than 1% of people have an eyeball scar. This is also called a macular pucker, and it's just scar tissue that forms in your eye. And it's known to cause blurred or distorted vision. And it's caused when the vitreous, which is the gel-like part of your eye, starts to pull away from the retina. Less than 1% of people can hear colors or see sounds. For example, this could happen as soon as someone hears a sound, they automatically see the color red, or as soon as they read a word, a certain color pops into their mind. About 33% of people experience motion sickness, and this 33% are highly susceptible to motion sickness, while the rest just experience it in extreme conditions. And it's caused when your brain starts to get signals from your body that it's moving, but they're mismatched and don't match up.
Here's some Disney Channel stars that went to...
Do I have any of those? Or is any of the Seeker's body is weird, man? Does they have that extra, we said, I guess cartilage on your pinky or eyeball scars? I didn't even know an eyeball could get a scar.
to jail, but each time the crime gets worse. Starting off, Mitchell Musso, who played Oliver Oken in Hannah Montana, was pulled over in 2011 for driving under the influence. He was only 20 at the time and was arrested and released on bail. Because of this, his character was written out of Parrot Kings and his show Prank Stars was cancelled. Next up, Adam Hicks, who played Luther on Zeke and Luther and had a starring role in Lemonade Mouth, was arrested a couple times, but most recently for an armed robbery with his girlfriend. His sentencing was delayed multiple times due to mental health evaluations and was eventually given a 5-year sentence. But he's now currently on parole and making music on TikTok. Moving on, Lindsay Lohan was Disney's golden child in the early 2000s, starring in iconic movies such as The Parent Trap, Freaky Friday, and Mean Girls, before getting into trouble with the law. She's been arrested for driving under the influence, drug possession, violating her probation, a theft charge, and has even had a bench warrant out for her arrest. And finally, Phil Lewis, who played Mr. Mosby on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, was arrested and charged for vehicle manslaughter after killing a 21-year-old girl while
while drunk driving. When they tested his blood alcohol, it was 3 times the legal limit. He was originally given a 5-year sentence, 2 years of probation, and 350 hours of community service, but ended up only serving 1 year due to his work with prison-based theater groups that performed in jails, churches, and schools to highlight the consequences of drug abuse.
After breaking up in the 50s,
Childhood.
these two high school sweethearts are now newlyweds at 82 and 85. Eddie and Caroline dated for years in high school, and they spent so much time together that Caroline was known as Eddie's girl around their Nashville town. And when Eddie graduated a few years before Caroline, she had hoped for his class ring as a sign of commitment, but Eddie wasn't ready, and he was about to leave their hometown for the ROTC program at the University of Tennessee. When he dropped her off at her house one evening in 1959 without giving her a class ring and with no mention of the future, Caroline knew that their relationship was over. She says that she recalls running into her house and crying for that entire night. And then the two went on to live completely separate lives, including Caroline winning Miss Nashville the same year that Eddie left. In 1961, they both married other people and shortly thereafter had children and raised families. Eddie spent 21 years as a pilot in the Air Force, and Caroline became an interior designer and an author. But in 2001, Caroline lost her husband, and in 2021, Eddie lost his wife. A year later, in 2022, Eddie felt compelled to reach out to Caroline, and he says he called 9 times before she answered, but when she did, the spark was still there. With 6 decades of catching up to do, they met back up in Nashville, and just 3 months later, Eddie asked her to marry him. He wanted to get her a traditional engagement ring, but she said that all she wanted was his high school class ring, just like all those years ago. Now, as newlyweds in their 80s, they say that they feel just like kids again. I'm Jen, and I post something positive every day.
It's true love. Really, works through. They found each other, man, after all that time. Can you even imagine that, living separate lives? You come back and marry your first love. That was a great story. We need something positive every day.
Mason TV was able to trick Spotify into sending him Harry Styles' 1 billion streams plaque, so he decided to put it to good use. He created a TikTok account with the username SecretSue94, later changed to Sue Manella, playing on Harry Styles' nickname Sue, known within his fandom. He created multiple vines Harry made in 2013, adding subtle clues like a drawn-on cross tattoo to make it seem more authentic, and even getting pink carpet for his stairs to match Harry's stairs. He developed a multiverse of fake TikTok accounts for Harry's friends to lend credibility to the main account. He went to great lengths, including dressing up as Harry, painting his nails, and having fake paparazzi photos taken to show Harry with a Spotify plaque and using TikTok on his phone, which helped him spread the belief in the account. Overnight, fans all over social media and even major media outlets were speculating about its authenticity. Millions of people talking about the account led it to going viral and amassing over 600,000 followers.
This man left his 2-year-old toddler in a hot car while he went to go play video games. Not only is this case super disturbing because of what he was doing while his 2-year-old daughter was strapped in this hot boiling car, but apparently he's done this so many times before. It all happened on July 9th when 37-year-old Christopher Schultz arrived home at 12:50 and his daughter was strapped into her car seat and she was sleeping, so he decided to leave her in there because he did not want to wake her up, and he had left the AC on as well. Christopher's wife Erica arrived home at 4 p.m. from work and she found their 2-year-old daughter still strapped in the car. At this point, this poor little girl was already gone, and when paramedics arrived, there was nothing they could really do. Now, while Christopher claims that the AC was on, it turns out that it actually turned off only 30 minutes after he left to go inside. This means that she was left in this 180-degree boiling car for about 2.5 hours. At first, Christopher lied and said that he had left her in there for about 30 to 45 minutes and had checked up on her multiple times, but after they investigated and saw home surveillance footage of a neighbor, they noticed that she was actually in there for about 3 hours.
How long was she sleeping in the car out there? I want to say it was no more than 30-45 minutes. And I don't think their air was off that entire time. I think there was a time in between. I had checked on her last. It was still running. She was still sleeping. And then when she went back out. the car was off.
Like I said, he's done this so many times before, according to his other daughters. And his wife also sent him a text message saying, I told you to stop leaving them in the car. How many times have I told you? But what I also found so weird is that his wife also sided with him, and she got really upset when police arrested Christopher. I don't understand how she has any type of sympathy for this man who just took your baby's life because he was playing video games. He was warned multiple times about this, so there is no excuse. Christopher was originally charged with second-degree M, but then it was changed to first degree, and he pleaded not guilty. If he gets convicted, he does face life in prison.
This pedophile senator
for some video
North Dakota
games.
is one of the most disturbed people I've ever researched. This is all coming out right now in the news, so let's talk about it. Ray Holmberg was born in 1944, and he was first elected to the North Dakota Senate as a Republican in 1976. He ended up serving as a senator for decades, and he became one of the longest-serving senators in United States history. But behind the scenes, Ray was carrying out the most demonic activities you can imagine. The first allegations against him came out in 2020, when a man named Canton Todd came out and said that Ray had sexually assaulted him in 2010. You can read some of his tweet there. Canton provided evidence of where he was assaulted, and investigators were actually able to show that that apartment was indeed owned by the senator. And they were also able to confirm that the senator was seen with that guy around the same time. But nothing ever came out of this. Then in 2022, a huge scandal erupted. It turns out Ray Holmberg had shared 72 text messages with a child predator inside of prison. So this guy was sentenced for CP production and distribution, and while he was in prison, Ray Holmberg texted him 72 times. Now obviously people were asking, what were these texts about? Well, some of the texts that were eventually recovered showed Holmberg asking this convicted predator if he could meet up with his 19 to 20-year-old boyfriend to give him a massage. Holmberg has claimed in the news that these text messages were just about some lawn care, that this pedophile just happened to be redoing his lawn and that's what he was texting him about. And when he was pressed by members of the press, he stated the messages were just simply gone. I don't understand this. In most cases, the police can immediately go back and retrieve any text messages from criminals, so why haven't they done this yet with this guy? But this only gets significantly worse. Just 2 days ago, Ray Holmberg pled guilty to child sex tourism. If you're confused on what that means, this means that Ray, while he was a United States Senator, was traveling overseas to engage in acts with minors. Prosecutors in the case alleged that he traveled 14 times to Prague in the Czech Republic between the years 2011 and 2021 to pay to engage in acts with minors. And even more disturbingly, a number of these trips were state trips. So that means that the United States government was paying for him to go over to the Czech Republic. And he was there on an official capacity. So he definitely did this, and when this all came out, it brought up the history of CP charges that were also leveled at him in the past. That's right, they also discovered that between 2012 and 2013, Ray, who was a United States Senator at the time, was using the alias Sean Evans online to, quote, convince a child to send him sexually explicit images. AKA, this freak was pretending to be a child online to receive CP from a child. So with all of this, the sexual assault, the traveling to a country to engage in acts with minors, the CP, all of that, you would imagine this guy would go away for a long time, right? These are serious, terrible charges. Well, no. Because he pled guilty, he's going to get a sweetheart deal. That means that the Department of Justice dropped the CP charges against him, and the judge is believed to, quote, recommend the low end of the sentencing guideline range. His lawyers have said they expect him to get 3 to 4 years in prison. So for molesting multiple young boys, for convincing a child to send him graphic material, for sexually assaulting a man, for being in contact with a child predator who probably sent him other stuff that got deleted, this guy is going to get 3 to 4 years in prison. Gotta love American justice, right? If you want to join me on my journey to expose pedophiles and creeps like this, listen to my new podcast, The Conspiracy Files. You can either watch it on YouTube or you can listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And in a few weeks, we're going to be doing an episode about pedophile members of Congress and the Senate, and it's really, really disturbing.
Skinwalker vibes. that dog turning. And Smiley. It's possessed.
What this woman did aboard the Titanic is purely horrifying. In 1912, as the Titanic embarked on its fateful voyage, a strange woman named Amanda Hugg boarded in Southampton. She was traveling alone, dressed in all black, and carried a single leather trunk. Amanda barely spoke to anyone, but rumors quickly spread among the first-class passengers. Some claimed she was a witch, others said she was a soothsayer. On the night of April 14th, a steward claimed he saw Amanda standing on the deck, staring into the freezing Atlantic. When he asked if she needed anything, she simply said, "We won't make it." Hours later, tragedy struck. The iceberg tore through the Titanic's hull. As chaos erupted, Amanda was seen calmly moving through the panicked crowds. Survivors later swore that she didn't board any lifeboat, but was still spotted in different parts of the ship, whispering to frightened passengers. When the Carpathia rescued the survivors, a crewman brought aboard Amanda's leather trunk, which was found floating among the wreckage. But here's the chilling part. When they opened it, they found photographs of all the survivors of the tragic incident. Her name didn't appear on the passenger manifest, and no one on the rescue ship remembered seeing her after the sinking. Years later, Amanda was seen near the Twin Towers on September 2001.
So she shows up whenever tragedies involved? Saying they don't make it a couple hours before the iceberg hit? It can't be a coincidence. That's my first time hearing it in the Titanic stories as well, so we learning.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
What is that? A djinn? Dark aura. How the hell did that happen? That baby doing the hit. Where was she running to? Under the sea with it. Swimming side by side with him.
This 100.
See, because I want to ask y'all a question. Do y'all truly believe, man, that there's mermaids in the ocean? the reason why I keep an open mind to it, man, is because they said, I heard it like a bunch of times saying we haven't even explored like the full depths of our ocean because the pressures are it's like way too deep for us to even get down there. So there's a part of our ocean that remains undiscovered. So it could be a possibility, man. Just keep your mind open to that.
% true story that happened to a woman in Madison, Wisconsin. Now, there was this woman named Sherry who moved into this house with her 2 children in Madison, Wisconsin. Now, she said, at the time, she didn't believe in anything supernatural. She really thought that was a bunch of nonsense. But she said, right away when they moved in, she would notice, out of the corner of her eye, sometimes shadows moving across the walls. She would hear strange noises that she couldn't explain. But she said for the most part, it was just a normal house. One night, she's upstairs in her bedroom, and she's folding laundry. She hears talking coming from her son's room. So she makes her way over to his room. The door's closed, and she hears her son having a full-on conversation with someone. And she's like, who is he talking to, at 12:30 at night? So she opens the door, and when she looks in his room, he is not in his bed. So she starts yelling for him. She looks down and sees him next to the side of his bed, on his knees, crouched down, with his head under the bed, talking to someone. And she's like, hey, who are you talking to? Like, who's under there? And her son's like, I can't tell you. And she said, what do you mean you can't tell me? Like, who's under the bed? And he's like, I can't say. He'll get mad. And she's like, what? Who's under there? So she runs over to the bed and she looks underneath there. It's empty. There's nothing under there. So she's like, you know what? Just get back in bed. Like, just stop, doing whatever you're doing. Several weeks pass, and like on a regular basis, she keeps finding her son talking to someone under the bed, except there's no one there.
Weird.
So after a few weeks of this happening, she thinks maybe something is wrong with her son. So she takes him to this child therapist. The therapist assesses him and says, he seems completely fine. It's probably just his imagination. So several months pass and he keeps on doing this. Well, one day she's sitting down in the living room with him and they're talking when she notices he has some scratches and bruises all over his body. And she's like, where did you get those scratches and bruises from? What's going on? And he's like, I can't say, I can't tell you. And she's like, yes, you have to tell me, what is going on with you? And finally he breaks down and he starts crying and stuff. And he just starts freaking out. And then he runs up to his room. So the mom, at this time is like, I don't know what to do. What is going on with my son? She's just panicking. Later that night, she's awoken to her son screaming in his bedroom. She runs as fast as she can. She goes in his room. She finds him halfway underneath the bed. He's grabbing onto the bed frame, and it looks like something is pulling him under the bed. So she immediately grabs him, pulls him out from under the bed. She looks under there. There's no one there.
What?
So she's like, you know what, this is weird. You're sleeping with me tonight. You're going to be in bed with me tonight. So they go back to her bedroom. He lays down. He falls asleep. She's sitting in bed. She can't sleep. She's freaked out about this whole situation. When all of a sudden she hears, shh, hey, come under the bed. And she's like, what? She looks over. Her son is sleeping. But then once again she hears, hey, come here, under the bed. I need to talk to you. And it's like a man's voice. And she's like, no, who are you? Like, go away. And the man's like, come on, get under the bed. I need to tell you something. And like, she's like, no, I'm not going under the bed. And she said this man, whoever he was, just started yelling obscenities and getting really angry. So she grabs her son, they get out of the house, and she said she left that night and never went back. And still to this day, that house sits there. And she said she's talked to the neighbors, and they said since she's moved, like several families have lived there, and they move out immediately.
Oh, so she wasn't tripping now.
Oh, shit! A ghost!
Why did she do the cripple? What the?
Dude, I hate working night shift. They got me cleaning up all this broken glass.
What was that? Oh, what the?
I got bit!
Mom,
Damn.
what's wrong?
That was weird. Someone's behind that tree.
I have a question.
I don't see
What the
it.
hell is this? What the hell is this? Right? It's got like little wings or whatever.
I don't think there's a ferret. That could be like a type of bug, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe. I mean, it just resembles a ferret, but I don't think we got ferrets roaming around. My opinion.
I saw it. I thought it was like a flower petal, but clearly it's not.
This is why. Nah, come back out. Why you be thinking like that?
I'm gonna call edit on that one.
Alright, so look, let me know.
What the?
Oh my god, holy shit. That's my guy. That's my guy. And I just looked at him. You know what? I think he's heading to the front of that house. I gotta tell the guys. Jim,
If you're screaming at a dig site and you keep digging, why would you do that? I'm hitting the jets, man. You hearing some screaming, bro? You digging a hole? I don't think you're in the right area. What? In the wrong area.
Stop!
Going nowhere. What the fuck?